everybody. This is Viveka with the Nourished Caveman and the Healing Foods Method. And I'm trying to find the camera on the phone. This morning I want to talk to you about a topic that's been very important in my practice and for the ketogenic lifestyle for the last 5-6 years that I have been doing keto. And it's a topic that's recently starting to come out in like keto discussions and keto websites. But when I first started, nobody talked about this. And it is glucose readings and the importance of glucose readings for ketogenic and how and why we would do glucose readings to get the maximum benefits from them. I also want to talk to you about ways to track glucose that will be different than what is normally done and what are the benefits of it. I just say that. Okay, let's get into it. So a lot of people that start a keto diet, they just track their ketones. And barely anybody in the mainstream has been tracking their glucose, especially in a consistent way when doing ketogenic. The way that I track glucose readings is by charting them, making a chart, a graph. So I have my patients, especially when they first start working with me, they start tracking glucose 7 times a day. And a lot of them have never seen a glucose meter. They don't know how to use it. They have no idea, what it would do for them. So I start them off at 7. Good morning. I start off at 7 times a day. It's fasting glucose, and then it's before and after breakfast, before and after lunch, and before and after dinner. We usually do not track around snacks. Good morning, Micheline. Thank you, or I hope I pronounced your name right. We usually don't track around snacks, but so the idea of doing this is that I want to see the fluctuation of your readings throughout the day. So this is not about like when you go to the doctor and you get, or you get labs done, they will track your glucose. They'll do a glucose reading, which is going to be a very accurate reading because it's done in a lab setting. What you do at home premise is not as accurate because it's done with the standard glucose meters unless you have a professional grade glucose meter or one of the one that I never remember the name of, that just stays plugged in and tracks your glucose for diabetics. Libra, that's the one. So unless you have a Libra that is very accurate, the ones that you prick your finger with, they have a lot of variability. But the good thing is that they enable us to track cheaply and consistently and have a large number of readings. So as we do, this is what we do at home versus the lab, a large number of readings that we will put into a graph. So what does this kind of reading, the graphing kind of reading, what kind of benefits does it have for us doing a ketogenic lifestyle? Well, the first thing, I made a list here, so don't forget any of the points. Most important thing is you need to understand how you react to carbohydrates and start making that connection from brain and mouth, especially what goes in here to the body and the reaction in the body from the foods that you eat. It's amazing. A lot of people that come from a standard diet or a SAD diet, and you really don't have that connection. And also you don't have any idea where the carbs are. And you don't have any idea yet on how the carbs react in your body. So it's very important when we start keto to start making that connection. More important as well is what do we react to? Because individually, it's very different from person to person. I could be having Lakanto sweetener, which I use occasionally in my recipes, and it's fine for me. And then my patient Mary is going to use Lakanto, and her blood sugar is going to go from 80 to 120. Good morning, Linda. So let me just say something for you guys. So what are normal blood sugars? Maybe we should talk about that because a lot of my clients, when they come to me, they're like, where should my blood sugars be? They're all over the place. Oh my goodness, they're going up and down like crazy. And they're in the 140s or 120s, or they're in the 70s. Where should your blood sugar be? So we have two different kind of ranges. One is what we consider normal, so that means glucose burners, and one is keto adapted. And so those healthy glucose burner ranges, for me, in my practice, they're between the 90s and 110. So fasting should be like around 90, 95, under 100. And then you can have usually an excursion of about 20 points after your meal. Now, I tend to measure glucose in a little bit of different ways because I want to measure your first initial spike from carbs. So I have my patients take their glucose about 45 minutes to an hour after their meal instead of the regular 2 hours, because I want to see how the spike goes. Ideally, you would measure half an hour after you eat, an hour after you eat, and an hour and a half after you eat, and 2 hours after you eat. So you get a nice little curve, and that will tell you what your insulin is doing. Okay, we're getting off topic here because let me backstep. So a normal range for glucose burners, so 90s to 120s maximum after meals. What is a good range for people who are in ketosis or keto adapting or keto adapted? So I would say, so what happens with keto adaptation is that your morning really gets higher after a while because it becomes good morning, Dawn. It becomes what is called physiological insulin resistance, which doesn't really mean anything. It just means that in the morning, your blood sugars will be higher. There's been different ways to explain this, the dawn effect or, resistance to carbohydrates, to insulin when you are low carb for a long time. Long story short, at a practical level, it does not affect, it's not a true insulin resistance, and it does not affect you because what happens is that even if your first reading is higher, then it will go lower after you eat breakfast, or sometimes it just drops by itself once it's about an hour, 2 hours after you get up. So first reading should probably be ideally in the 80s or 90s. It could be in the hundreds, low, like around 100 usually, after you have been keto adapted or low carb or keto for a while. And then for the rest of the day, your readings should be around 80s, 70s sometimes 90s. It really depends on the person, your age, your lean muscle mass, your ability to resensitize your body to insulin. And the trick here, though, is to look at that graph like we talked about in the beginning. And it's what is the excursion before and after meals? Ideally, it's almost flat. So when you're eating really well and your body is functional with insulin again, then you're having barely an excursion. So instead of 20, 30, 40 pints, it's going to be 5 points. So it's going to be 85 before lunch and 90 after lunch. For some of my patients, what happens is it's 90 before lunch sometimes, and it's 85 after lunch. That means it was a proper keto meal with the proper foods. So let's go back of other things, the secrets of this way of tracking. So when you track consistently like that and you're matching your readings to your foods, another thing that you can see is what foods you're sensitive to. Because a lot of times it's not just, a keto food and it's not just a non-keto food, but you guys will be sensitive to something and that will spike your glucose. So maybe you had psyllium husk, which is a perfectly acceptable keto food and used in a lot of keto baking recipes, and your glucose will go up 20, 30 points. So, supposedly fiber is good for you. There has been a lot of discussion about that with carnivore, but that's another story. But this is a really good way to see if maybe fiber does not just constipate you, but it also pops your blood sugar up. Okay? So finding out about food sensitivities is another big thing that we can glean from tracking this way. A lot of you use dairy. I don't use dairy. I do keto paleo. My version of keto paleo doesn't include dairy. I don't even use butter anymore. Honestly, I was using butter before and now I switched to ghee, and I use cultured ghee sometimes, especially in my drinks, because tallow in your tea, lard in your tea. Well, I don't use lard because I don't eat pork, so you don't have a whole lot of options. And I'm also starting to use less coconut oil and trying to use more animal fats. Still that carnivore experiment. So back to our blood sugars and readings, we can look at food sensitivities and get a little idea here. So of course, the first point was carb sensitivity. So how sensitive to carbs, and that you see by the spike, how big the spike is. What's our carb tolerance, and what foods we can tolerate. How is your insulin effective? So before and after meals. Or is like, do you have reactive hypoglycemia? And how do we take care of that? I don't personally think reactive hypoglycemia is a real condition. It doesn't exist. It's just a reaction to the food. So, sorry, internet here again. You get rid of the bad food, you get rid of the hypoglycemia. So, another really good thing is to track your ketone levels, of course, as you track glucose. And here we start having a further correlation of what's going on inside your body as you start keto adapting and looking how glucose reading influence ketone readings. Because you know what, you guys? It's really important for keto adaptation that your glucose remains low and stable to properly keto adapt. I don't think a lot of you out there have experienced what real keto adaptation means. I see it in patient after patient after patient. Not even all my patients are able to keto adapt. And guess why? Because you need to be extremely compliant. Your blood glucose needs to be kind of level and low, and your ketones need to be consistently at a certain level, which I would say is around 0.8 to 1 millimolar in the blood minimum. Or if you're looking at the beginning through the strips, it would be probably from small to moderate, at least. So this is another, if our goal is keto adaptation, this is a way that we can use and leverage those ketone readings to do keto adaptation. And you can monitor the keto adaptation through your glucose readings, because what should happen is that they get low and they get consistent and they get stable. So, it's really important. Don't forget blood glucose. So mood and energy follow blood glucose. That's a saying that we say in nutrition. So when we monitor what your glucose is doing, then we're going to have a better idea of how to control mood and energy, because we know that once our glucose is stable, the mood and energy is going to be a lot more stable. And this can be a whole other video in itself, and we might do it at some point. I've talked about these in depression video a little bit. Guys, check it out. It's on YouTube. It's on the blog. Okay, so the last point here before we wrap this up is you track your progress. And your progress is in not just keto adaptation, but the healing on your body, because we forgot to mention one other little tricky thing, and it's stress. And how stress will kick you out of ketosis and spike your blood sugar. Here's one of my patients watching. Hi, Cindy. And she can probably give you a big lecture about stress and all those things, because I do talk about this extensively in my program, and I try to educate every single one of my patients on all the stuff we talk about. But the difference is that I do it in a very individual way. So right now I'm talking to all of you who are going to be watching, thousands of people. And yes, this is valid for you, but how does it apply to Mary, Jane, Cindy, Susan, everybody who I work with individually? How does it apply to you who are watching? That is sometimes a little different. And sometimes, especially for those of you who have conditions like serious conditions, because you guys, let's say the truth, I don't really work with people who just need to lose 5 pounds. And this is not who I mostly talk to. I'm talking to people who are having serious issues, autoimmune conditions, missing body parts, I call them. If you're missing your thyroid, your gallbladder, your uterus, your ovaries, your hormones are all over the place, or you had cancer and you're trying to recover, or you had a thyroidectomy, or you had serious 1, 2, 3 autoimmune cases, or your hormones are all over the place. You have extreme fatigue, exhaustion. Anyways, you get the picture. This is what these videos are really directed to, are people with those kind of issues who need the extra help. And, that's how I work. And that's why I want to also educate you, because don't forget, you can have the power to heal yourself. And if I can give a message through these videos and the work that I do, is that there is hope, you guys. There is hope. There is always hope. And of course, we all resonate with different paths and different ways. Some people will resonate more with practitioners who do a ton of labs and, it's all based on numbers and science. And some people will resonate more with practitioners like me, who tend to be more holistic and look at you as the whole person and take all these different little elements and tools and make them work in a whole. So this is my message to you, is like, there is hope for healing. Pretty much anything. There are ways to heal. And this is just another tool. Your glucose meter is your friend. Your ketone meter is your friend. Ketosis is your friend. Those are just tools. There is a long list of tools that I use and I try to share with you in a general way here on this open channel, but especially in my practice. I share with you, I teach you how to use them so you can make them yours and be empowered to take care of your own healing, be empowered for your own, take responsibility as well for your own health. Anyways, I think I've been talking a lot here, so let's wrap it up. I need to go to work. So please ask questions if you have any, leave comments, and I will be doing more videos on the basics like this and the tools that I use in my practice every day on real patients, not on rats, people. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it and it was helpful, please subscribe somewhere. I don't know where it's gonna be. Subscribe to my channel. That will be helpful for me and stay in contact with you. Follow my blog. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm of course here on Facebook. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for watching. By the way, I will be in Italy. We're leaving tomorrow. So next week, Facebook Live is going to be from Switzerland, I think. I think that's where we're going to be. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun.